But like I said, I think that seminars should always have some kind of live resistance. And I started doing that in my seminars rather than just showing moves. And the live resistance portion of it, as we know through our talks with Greg Souders and whatever, the live resistance portion, it's almost like you're giving the students something that they can take home because now their body has tried to solve that problem physically during the seminar, and they tried to really use what you showed during the seminar.
What's the most efficient path to victory against this particular opponent?
He's dropping off for the choke here. We could see the finish. It's looking tight. Tight Delbra.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Essential Jiu Jitsu podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kwan. The Essential Jiu Jitsu podcast is everything you need to know about Jiu Jitsu. And this week we're going to be discussing how we can create a great seminar, a memorable seminar, and more importantly, an effective seminar. Before we talk about that, can we please like, share, subscribe wherever you're watching this? If you'd like to support or contact the show, you can check out the links in the bottom. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversations with Greg Souders, and then last week we had Josh McKinney on the show. Two very, very different approaches to coaching, and I learned a lot from talking to both of them. And what I like to do as a coach is just sort of pick and choose things that I like, things that I think people are doing well, and then just adopt it into my teaching and my grappling game. So to say I'm going to go 100% with Greg's approach or 100% to Josh's approach or 100% to Danaher's approach, that's never my goal. I always like to take what I like and adopt it, and then what I don't like, I discard it, or maybe I tried it another time. It's kind of like when you're choosing moves that you're going to adopt into your grappling arsenal. I know Greg says there's no such thing as moves, but if you listen to the episode, you know what he means when he says that. Of course, there are techniques and things and strategies that you might adopt into your game, and then things that you might choose not to. So I really enjoyed those conversations. They were a lot of fun for me, very, very enlightening, and hope to talk to either of those guys, in the future and have some other great conversations. So in terms of creating a great seminar, first you got to ask yourself, why would somebody want to even attend a seminar? There's many reasons why they might do this. I think most people would go to a seminar because they want to learn a particular topic or a particular system. And generally, the instructor who's running the seminar is a specialist in that field. So I can remember when leg locks weren't super popular or common around this area. I was one of the first guys to really dive into leg locks with Rob Bernacki. And I remember doing a couple of seminars on ankle locks and heel hooks and things like that. And this was before Danaher entered the system. This was, I was probably just on the end of my brown belt journey. And I remember people wanting to get a look at some leg locks and they didn't have any idea what to do. But nowadays, you go to local tournaments, people are heel hooking each other. Even at the purple belt level, you're seeing people pretty competent in heel hooks. And I think that has to do with just how available all the information is nowadays. There's so much information out there. We've seen leg locks as a common thing in competition now, and people have watched how to do it. They've sort of played with them. It's not really a novel thing like it was when I was a brown belt, okay? Danaher's team, when they came on the scene and they were heel hooking everyone, yes, they had updated modern mechanics, but also nobody was really a specialist at leg locks at that time. So you could see Eddie Cummings finishing guys from straight ashigarami, which you don't really see anymore. Nowadays, we need to see more dominant positions when people are finishing leg locks, just because people are so aware of them. There's various leg lock DVDs that are available on the market nowadays, and you don't have to go far to find really good information on leg locks now. So as the sport progresses, as technology progresses, the ability to acquire this information gets easier and easier and easier. And so nowadays, I'm not saying I can't go somewhere and still do a leg lock seminar, but generally people, if they want to learn a system, they don't need to bring me in as an instructor. They don't need to bring in, a leg lock specialist to learn leg locks. All you need to do is buy some instructionals, sort of study the content, watch the match footage, and you can, introduce leg locks to your students pretty easily. Other than that, seminars are generally a meet and greet to bring out personalities. I've been to seminars with some pretty famous people, Gary Tonin, Kyotera, of course, Pierre Leclerc. I've been to Cobrina's seminar multiple times. There's just people are constantly putting on seminars, and I think the thing is seminars are essentially a meet and greet nowadays, and I rarely see even the highest level athletes or coaches provide what I would consider to be like really, really good seminars. Okay. I think another reason to support a seminar would be to have like a fundraiser for something. So sometimes, I know people who have had seminars for fundraisers to support a certain cause, or if somebody needed to get like a surgery or something like that. So they can really bring a community together. And I really like that about seminars, to come together for a greater cause, and then to kind of donate a good chunk of the money to a cause. I think that's really, really good. But on the whole, seminars are actually pretty difficult to sell, I find. Like, for example, I had Nicky Rod. I heard he was coming to town, and I got a hold of his contact, and I messaged him and I said, "Hey, Nicky Rod, like, I'm a huge fan, love your content. What do you charge for a seminar?" And he's like, "Can you do $6,000?" And I'm like, I can't. Honestly, you deserve $6,000. You're, 80 multiple time silver medalist at ADCC. You're friggin' Nicky Rod, and I can't afford that. And the thing is, my rule of seminars is like, when I have a seminar at my gym, I don't really need to make any money on it. I don't take a portion of the money. Like, I've had Oliver Taza and P.O. Leclerc at my gym recently, and I don't take any of the money. I just give it all to them. But my rule is I don't want to lose money. So if I brought out Nicky Rod and he wants $6,000 flat, I'm not going to be able to afford that. I'm not going to be able to bring in enough people to see that. Unfortunately, it's too hard to sell. And now I'm going to have to pay him probably like $3,000 or $4,000 just to cover it. And I'm not willing to do that. And that's just the truth of it. Is it a service that I want to apply for? I want to provide for my students? Yes, I do. But like I said, generally, I think people are pretty cheap when it comes to these types of seminars. And it's probably likely because they assess the cost and what they believe they will get out of the seminar. And it's not really worth it to them. So unless you're like a Gordon Ryan or a John Danaher or a Gary Tonin or a Rafa Mendes, it's pretty difficult to sell seminars, I think, even if you are like an ADCC silver medalist. But that being said, if so much content wasn't available online nowadays, I think it would be much easier to sell seminars. I can remember one of my old coaches, Mike Lee, would tell me, he used to train with Megaton, and Megaton would come up from the States and he would do a seminar, and it was very, very secretive, and it would be like Megaton's secrets, and he would basically just show like an arm bar from the guard. And back then that was like the new shit, right? Nowadays, you can't just show an arm bar from the guard unless you're like, you've got some crazy details that nobody's ever seen. Like I said, just that content is out there now. Everyone is more aware. Everyone is studying. Maybe not to the degree that I think they should, but the content is there if you want to find it, and you don't need to bring these guys in unless they're like a specialist. So for example, if Eddie Cummings was available for a seminar and he's like, "Matt, I'm going to charge you $5,000 or whatever," I'd probably consider doing that, just because he is such a leg lock master. Or let's say like a Keenan Cornelius, he's going to teach his lapel system. It's like, who else can teach a lapel system like Keenan? Maybe that would make sense. But other than that, I'm not willing to spend thousands of dollars out of my own money just to bring somebody in. Generally, I find it that a lot of people don't really support seminars. They look at that and they're like, I'd rather go chill with my family on that Saturday, or I'd rather take that day off. And that's just the unfortunate truth of it. The reality is that a lot of BJJ people are pretty damn cheap. The economy is down. BJJ is expensive enough to train as it is. And most people aren't going to spend $60 to $100 on a seminar, especially if they're not really that serious about jiu-jitsu, right? Only the hardcores will actually spend that kind of money on, going somewhere and learning when they could just go to class and train, or they could just go to open mat that day maybe. I basically attend seminars because I want to learn like an explanation, or I want like one detail on something. Okay. I don't go to seminars and think, okay, I'm going to learn a ton from this, because in reality, my brain can't really retain all the information from a seminar. But that being said, if I go to, a leg lock seminar and I get like one really, really good detail out of it that I didn't think about before, I look at that as like a base expectation for when I attend a seminar. Like I said, I don't mind hosting seminars at all, but because I have a gym and I have a platform. But that being said, I don't want to lose money hosting a seminar. It's not worth it to me just to have someone in my roof that people can meet if it's not going to be, if I have to pay out of my own pocket for it. All right. So we're planning a seminar, and then this episode, if you're a black belt and you've done a lot of seminars, you may or may not get much out of this. I assume at this point you're sort of good at planning a seminar and, marketing yourself and whatever. But maybe for like the purple and brown belts up and coming, maybe you got asked to do a seminar and you're not really sure what to charge or whatever. This episode is more geared towards you. Okay. So for the, we have like the 5 W's of anything: who, what, when, where, and why. And kind of lay everything on the table with the person who's hosting the seminar and the presenter, so that there's nothing left to guessing. Okay. So if I'm hosting a seminar and I have like, Nicky Rod coming out, you got to sort all these things out ahead of time so that there's no guesswork. There's no surprises that come up. So this includes like, what is he going to teach? The cost of it, the time and the place. Is filming allowed? Is filming not allowed? What is the seminar structure going to be like? Is there going to be sparring after, et cetera, et cetera? I know a lot of people who run seminars that don't spar after. And that is, in my opinion, if they're not going to be rolling with everyone, and I understand why they wouldn't, but if they're not going to be rolling with anyone, I just don't know if that's a seminar I want to go to. I've had opportunities to go to some pretty cool seminars, and I've chosen not to go because I heard there wasn't going to be sparring after. I'm like, well, I want to roll with that person, and I understand that person can't roll with everyone, and they can't go to every city they go to and roll. I get that. Everyone's injured. Maybe some of these athletes are smaller and they don't want to mix it up and roll with bigger athletes, even though I'm not big. I understand why someone would not want to spar during a seminar, but that being said, it makes the seminar, in my opinion, way less valuable as through the lens of somebody who's attending a seminar. So identify your target audience. So think about like, who are you gearing this seminar towards? What information do you have? Who are you trying to reach? Okay. Like, identify your target audience. The next thing would be like, choose a topic. What are you going to teach, right? What information is that going to be? What do you specialize? If you've been asked to do a seminar, it's like you're probably a specialist in something, or you probably have really good knowledge on a particular topic. And what is that topic that you're going to teach when? So you also have to kind of coordinate and pick the best time and date for the seminar. And the reason why you do this is because you don't want to conflict with open mats around the city, where those people who could be going to your seminar might just want to go to an open mat instead. Or if there's like an event or a tournament or something at the same time, you do not want to conflict with those things because you want to maximize your attendance, obviously. You don't want to give people a reason to go somewhere else when you're sort of planning seminars. So it is important to consider these things when you are organizing seminars with the host. And also people who are doing, people who have like free time, like during the weekend, they may choose to just take that day off, right? And if the seminar is during a regular class time, people may or may not show because they could just go to somewhere else, or they could be going to that class at that time. It kind of depends. it's up to you to organize it with the host to see when is there going to be maximum potential, maximum attendance. Where is the seminar? You have to secure the location. Probably if you got asked to do a seminar, likely there's already a host with a location. And why is the seminar happening? Like, I think it's important to have a clear objective and a purpose for the seminar, not just showing like a collection of moves. And now we'll go into seminar structure where we'll talk about this. So a seminar structure could be a bunch of different styles. Okay. I've been to many different seminars. I've seen a lot of different styles of seminars, and I've sort of adjusted how I do seminars over the years. Some people do seminars as like a collection of moves. I think we can see the downfallings and the shortcomings of this. This is not really how I would envision an effective seminar. A collection of moves often turns into the seminar presenter as just trying to show what they know rather than trying to transfer information to the student. Like random sequences and random movements at seminars is not, in my opinion, very effective, and it's not concise. It doesn't have a purpose. Generally, when I go in teaching a seminar, there's a purpose that I have. Okay, I want to introduce this position and I want to show some systems from this position, and I want to get usually for me, I like to do some kind of like a gamified training or some kind of live sparring in my seminars. And quite often, seminars do not show the moves versus resistance. You're drilling the moves versus non-resisting opponents, and you're just trying the moves out. Then you come back, you show another move, and you do that move again, and you do another move, or maybe like a counter to that move, and then you try it again, and then you maybe sometimes roll, or maybe sometimes you take a picture, and that's it. I think that is like probably the least effective seminar when it comes to actually transferring information to the student. But if you use gamified training, of course, eco-style training, or some kind of target sparring within the position, I think that's a good way to actually give the athlete value, because you're showing them something, but then you're also letting them play versus live resistance. And it gives more of an interactive, more physically demanding seminar. And I think that's just more enjoyable overall and more beneficial overall for the student. So I kind of treat seminars like a class. I add concepts, like I said, gamified training, and I also have techniques or details that I show. I also think it's really important, even though the last couple seminars I've done, nobody wants to ask questions. I love questions at seminars. Like I've said recently on social media, I think questions are just an opportunity for me to kind of really test what I know in jiu-jitsu. And if the answer is I don't know, that's okay to me. I have had that answer before when someone asked me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not the guy to know. I'm not that well studied in that topic, and I don't know. And I want to get, now I know that there's something that I need to look up. There's something I need to study. So, having the attitude that you know everything, or when you're going to a school, having the attitude of like, I'm here out of town, I'm a guest, and I'm the one who you brought in to teach, and like, I know I'm this all-knowing person, and like, that's not really the attitude I ever like to have. I like to have a humble attitude of like, well, I mean, I know I do some things well, and I know that I dedicate a lot of my time and my study to jiu-jitsu, but I don't know everything. It's impossible to know everything in jiu-jitsu. You're never really the master. So I really, really enjoy questions, and oddly enough, I even more so enjoy the questions I can't answer. Usually seminars, I would say, are 2 hours long. Any more instruction after 2 hours long, I think you're now starting to get negative returns, because how can your brain take that much information? After 2 hours, if you're just being shown techniques, your brain will start to wander, and you will start to forget what was shown at the beginning of the seminar. And just like when you're studying an instructional, I believe that is kind of the breaking point where it's like, okay, I need to stop. At this point, my brain is not going to be able to retain any of this. Maybe I would like to just retain one thing. And if I could just get one or two little details out of the seminar, I consider that, like I said, a base expectation, and I'm happy with that. But I always like to do my seminars 2 hour sessions and then 1 hour of sparring. And I always like to have sparring at the end, unless I'm injured. Usually if I'm injured though, I won't even do a seminar because I like to roll after. I like to roll with the students. I like to try to use what I showed with the students. For me, I always like to do sparring after. That's just, I think there's more value in it. And also I get to roll with people that I don't usually get to roll with. But like I said, I can understand why a half a Mendez would come to a seminar and not want to roll with everyone, because there's going to be big guys. There's going to be people who try to fuck him up. And obviously they're not going to be able to, most likely. But there's reasons why world-class athletes would not want to spar with just random strangers at a seminar. You know, someone think, oh, I got the better of so-and-so or whatever. It's like, yeah, but I'm expected to roll with you. And you know, we got to set the tone. And there's a whole bunch of more complicated things that come up when you decide you're going to spar with everyone, especially if you're a smaller athlete. When you're a smaller athlete, it makes a lot more sense why you wouldn't want to spar with a bunch of like 220-pound guys, right? But like I said, I think that seminars should always have some kind of live resistance. And I started doing that in my seminars rather than just showing moves. And the live resistance portion of it, as we know through our talks with Greg Souders and whatever, the live resistance portion, it's almost like you're giving the students something that they can take home, because now their body has tried to solve that problem physically during the seminar, and they tried to really use what you showed during the seminar. If you're just showing moves and you're just drilling moves, like explicit instruction versus non-resisting opponents during the seminar, way less likely that the information is actually going to stick. So to have gamified training with live resistance or constraint-led training to kind of ingrain what has been shown, I think that is a much more effective way for the student to retain information. So now my seminars always include some kind of gamified games before the actual sparring portion. Also ask yourself, like, what is the intention of the seminar? Generally, the intention for me to have a seminar is to network, to meet people, okay, to build relationships. I want to teach a specific system. A lot of it is for marketing myself, honestly, just to be seen, just to have like it's funny to say, like a social media post. Hey, I was visiting here and I networked with these people and now they want to have me back. Or they, you know, now this other gym saw, hey, you're teaching a seminar on that. Would you like to come out? So it's kind of like showing up at tournaments, at local tournaments. That whenever I go to a local tournament or even an international tournament, I look at that as a chance to market myself. Win or lose, I'm being seen, I'm networking, I'm talking with people, even just showing up to a tournament to be a referee. People see you referee and they're like, oh, I know that guy. That's the owner of this gym. He's now contributing to the community. I've had people come and join my gym literally because they saw me referee and they're like, oh, that guy really knows his stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go check out his gym. And then they join. So it's like just putting yourself out there and being seen is a really, really great benefit to doing seminars if you ever get a chance to do one. And of course, the main intention of the seminar should be to help the student improve, if we're being totally honest, right? I think a lot of people who go to teach seminars, they kind of look at it as an opportunity to, well, make money or travel or to kind of flex and show how much they know. And that's great. But I think the real intention of a seminar is to help the student, right? Is to give information to the student, but also not just give them the information, structure it in such a way that they can retain some of the information and they can leave the seminar with some kind of base level skill in that system so that they can go to the gym the next day and they can kind of continue where they left off and continue to build that skill and they didn't forget 100% of what was shown, right? All right, let's talk about seminar presentation. And if you're an instructor, you know, hopefully you'll find this valuable. You could be a world champion athlete, okay? You could be a world champion jiu-jitsu fighter. You're amazing on the ground, but you could be a horrible instructor, okay? I even know guys who are great instructors. They have great information, but horrible presentation. And understand that that's what teaching is. It is a presentation. It's a skill all in its own. If you are really, really good at jiu-jitsu, that does not necessarily equate to you are a good teacher. Or if you even have a ton of information and you can help people with jiu-jitsu, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a great presenter. So there is an entirely separate skill of public speaking that comes along with being an instructor. And a lot of people are afraid of public speaking. Personally, for me, I don't know, I'm some kind of freak. I love public speaking, hence why I have a podcast. I enjoy going in front of a room of people and talking. And to me, I can do it very naturally. And I think a big part of that is because I'm like not afraid to fuck up, and I'm not afraid to like kind of make fun of myself. And I'm not afraid to even show the crowd that I'm nervous. You know what I mean? I like to build a relationship with the crowd during my instruction. And if I stumble over some words or if I fuck up, it's like, yeah, I'm human. Let's just all move on and let's talk about the next thing, right? And when you have that attitude where you're not like an invincible person who can't make mistakes, it becomes so much easier. So that's just something that I always think about when I get myself into public speaking situations. So the presentation of instruction, be engaging and project your voice. I have a student who went on to open his own gym. This guy is he's pretty good on the mats, but he is incredible when it comes to the amount of information that he has. And he can watch instructionals and retain a ton of knowledge. And he's actually taught me, he's one of my students, and he's taught me so many things. Hey, Matt, I'm watching this instructional and I wanted to pick your brain on this. I want to show you this, blah, blah, blah. What do you think of this? Like, this guy's taught me so much. And he's a teacher. But when it comes time to addressing a class, he's monotone. He struggles with projecting his voice. And you want to avoid that monotone range in your voice. You got to kind of raise your voice during moments of emphasis. You got to pause after important notes. So if I say something important, I sort of pause. And often I will use the old Danaher adage where he's like, that's so important, I'm going to say it again. And when you do that, when you repeat things and when you pause after important notes, it really does hammer home that information. So really important to project your voice, especially when you're talking to children. You cannot talk to children with a monotone voice. You can't do this. They will just immediately tune you out, okay? That's why you see so many guys teaching kids are like, hey guys, what are we going to do today? Like, I'm not saying to talk like that, but it is useful to project your voice and to emphasize certain words when you're working, especially with kids. Having like a clear tone that can reach the whole room and not be afraid to speak loudly and project is, it takes practice, honestly, and it's very, very important when you're teaching. Limit filler words like I just used, even on the podcast, I say all the time. We all say that often. I'll say as well. Try to limit that as much as possible. Try to keep things concise and clear. And you don't even need to like speed through your presentation. I think slowing things down often is it could be more effective than rushing through things. A huge goal for the presenter is to hold the attention of the audience, right? That is so important. Even if you're like a public speaking and let's say you're a stand-up comedian, if you lose the crowd and they become bored or they just realize that you suck, that's when you start to lose the crowd and everything starts to fall apart, right? We want to avoid losing the attention of the audience. So to hold that attention, we got to project our voice, look around the room. A lot of time I'll make eye contact with a few people around the room. That really engages the speaker with the students. Use body language to sort of engage and show that you're really into the material, you're really passionate about the material, and that you're really, really passionate about transferring the information of the material to the student. If you're not feeling confident with your delivery or speaking in front of people, rehearse your presentation. So I have done that. I don't usually do it anymore. Usually I'll think about like notes for a seminar. I'll think about a couple things that I want to teach. I'll study those notes. But I don't really need to rehearse a presentation anymore, like in front of a mirror or anything. But I think if you are struggling with your delivery in public speaking, one of the best things you can do is talk to a mirror or record yourself on a camera and see what you look like. You'll be surprised how much you pick up and how much you see that you don't like and that you want to fix. Even with me listening back to a lot of these episodes, sometimes I listen back and I'm like, I wish I didn't say that, or I wish I didn't deliver that. Even when I was talking to Greg and I listened back to that episode, there was so much that I learned from a second listen. When I re-listened to the episode, I really picked up a lot of stuff that I missed just talking to Greg in the moment, because in the moment, I'm trying to keep my notes intact. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not using too many filler words. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not sounding like a fucking idiot and that I kind of understand what he's saying. And sometimes I tend to focus on what I want to say more than listening to my guest. And then when I listen back, I'm like, oh, I totally know what he was trying to say now. And in the moment, I didn't get it, right? So you really have to try and stay engaged and try to focus on the delivery of that presentation. Make sure that you're rehearsing it to really polish things up. And then eventually, hopefully, you won't even need to do that because you'll just be so confident speaking in front of people. Okay, do not overcomplicate the information that you're trying to convey and stay on track. So I think a really important thing is to kind of keep things simple, right? At least start simple when you're first showing things. Like the first couple things you're going to show, make sure that it's simple and that people get it right away. And then you can always build up to it. I think most people, when they teach a seminar on a series or on a system, they're going to progressively build on what they showed at the beginning of the seminar. They're going to progressively build upon that as the seminar goes on, right? So maybe you show like an entry into the legs, and then the next thing would be controls to a leg lock position, how you can make the position tighter. And then maybe you're going to show digging and breaking mechanics. And then from there, maybe a counter. So there's like a progressive chain. There's a cohesive sequence throughout the seminar, or a theme throughout the seminar that is related to each other. It's not just random. And I think keeping things simple at first, at least as you build up, very, very valuable. So quite often I like to keep things simple. I don't like to overcomplicate details or whatever. And then as it goes on, add those details in, or as people have questions, you can keep adding and adding. But if you give so much at the beginning, it's just so much information, you overload the student, their mind is starting to wander around. Be strategic with your seminar. Like, you got to think time-wise. Okay, if I'm going to show 4 things, right? Let's say 4 things, and I have 2 hours. That means that each thing is going to be compartmentalized within half an hour, right? And you have to kind of look at the clock constantly and be like, okay, if we want to show what I wanted to show, I got to stay on time. I can't just let this continue. I have to be planning this in such a way that I'm basically by the minute, ideally, and I can stay on schedule. Another thing is, if I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing people have now started to they're starting to now stop what they're doing. They're no longer drilling the move. That means they're getting bored, or it means maybe they've had too much information, because people will drill moves for a certain amount of time and then they'll just stop. They'll just stop drilling. You look around the move, people stop moving. It's time to move on to the next thing, or it's time to honestly end the seminar at that point. And that's a good, you do have to kind of read the room and say, is this still a productive environment? Okay, I'm noticing a couple of groups have now stopped. Let's move on. Let's now cut the cord and do something else. So be strategic with how you're going to plan your seminars. Another great thing, I think, as a presenter is to tell stories. And I try to do it on the podcast as well. I try to tell stories at seminars and when I'm speaking in front of people. What this does is it kind of increases relatability, right? So the student that's watching it is like, oh, like, this person is telling me a story right now. I can relate to that. It builds a connection between you and your audience. I think telling stories and past experiences, especially if it has some humor to it, or has some conflict to it, really engages the listener, and it makes it much more enjoyable. Kind of like Greg telling me that Leandro Lo punched him in the face after Greg passed his guard in training, right? Like, is that something that actually did happen? We'll never know, but I assume it did, because Greg shared that story with me, and that's funny. It's like, oh, that's cool that happened. And it wasn't cool for him at the time, but it does make for a good conversation. It does engage the listener with the presenter. And like I said, like, be passionate when you're teaching something, because passion is really, really contagious. And when you speak with something with passion, especially as a presenter, that really rubs off on everyone. It really makes it so that everyone gets engaged. Oh man, I can feel how passionate Matt is about this, like I'm into it too. It's really, really easy for the listener to get into something when they see how into it the presenter is. And like I said, like use humor whenever you can, whether it's through a personal story or just speaking to a room. Obviously, you have to read the room because profanity is not off the table. I sometimes swear in the podcast. Sometimes at a seminar, I'll swear. But obviously, like if there's kids in the room, you got to be selective with what you say. And nowadays, everything's so goddamn politically correct. You also have to be careful with certain things that you say. But generally, profanity is not off the table. And using humor increases the likelihood that the presentation will be well received, I find. But the last thing I'll say is kind of look around the room, read the room, and only move on if people are ready for that. So sometimes if you give people a certain task and they're not really well versed in that task, you might want to move on to the next portion of your seminar, but they're still struggling with the first part. And generally, my solution for this is I just say, hey, if you're good with this, move on to the next thing. If you're not good with this, let's just keep working on what we just worked on. And that way you can kind of read the room, and everyone learns at their own pace. So following people and sort of saying, okay, like I'll help you try and get through this part, but like everyone else is ready for the next portion, that's okay. But read the room and understand if people are getting your material or if they're just getting stuck, because there's nothing worse than just moving on to the next thing and you can't even do step one. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, this person is not going to get anything out of this. Now they can't even perform a basic task. So as the presenter, what can give value to a seminar? What can I do if I'm doing a seminar that will give more value to the student? Again, be concise, be friendly, be approachable, be someone who is an ambassador of your gym or your brand, and an ambassador of Jiu Jitsu. Be someone who's enjoyable to be around. I'm not going to say who, but someone who I'm somewhat close with, and they're very well known in Jiu Jitsu, and they're a very well known teacher. There is a reputation that this person is an asshole at seminars, and I've seen it firsthand. Yeah, he can be kind of an asshole. I'm not going to deny that. Even if you are multiple time world title holder, you've won many competitions, I think the best thing you can do when you come in is just be kind, be approachable, be friendly. People want to take pictures with you. People want to ask you questions. Even after hours, people want to talk to you, or even some people want to take you out to dinner after and like hang out outside of the seminar. Maybe you can do that. Maybe you can't. At least you can be a kind person. You can be welcoming to questions, and you're not getting pissed off when people can't do the techniques because, hey, they're new techniques to them. I think it's really, really important to have that persona, that you're like a nice, you're kind, passionate person, and that you're approachable. Interact with people and encourage questions. I always encourage questions at seminars. I always like questions. We've already discussed that. Always put the audience first. So make sure you're walking around the room. I know this is a small thing, but like when you walk around the room, it shows that you want to help people. It shows that you're going to give everyone your time, and that, even the high ranked people over here and the white belts over here, I see them as the same value. Even though they're different rank, I still want to help everyone out regardless of rank. So I will try my best during seminars to walk around the room, and I'm scanning the room. I'm seeing like who's looking at me, trying to like get my attention because they need help. They might not want to put their hand up. They might not want to get up from where they are and approach me and say, hey, can you come over here and help me? It's up to you as the instructor to kind of scan the room. Oh, they need help over there. Okay, I'll be there in a sec. Like that is very, very engaging and very important. It shows that you're not just there to like show moves, but you're actually trying to get the information to stick. Also giving concepts at seminars. So not just teaching like techniques, but giving concepts and principles and strategic ideas and things like that, just overlying general ideas that are very, very useful, I think is important. Be conceptual when you teach. Of course, if you've ever gone to a Rob Bernanke seminar, he basically starts every seminar So just saying, do we understand the principles of alignment? Do we understand how to break someone's stance and break someone's alignment? That is how he starts every seminar. And I've done that as well. I think that that's a really, really important thing to understand, because that principle right there translates to everything in jiu-jitsu. And once you understand that principle, it's just so much easier to talk about how you're going to stay in alignment and how you're going to break alignment. So conceptually, that being conceptual with your approach to jiu-jitsu is, I think, very, very good. It's a good thing as an instructor. Okay, when I'm thinking about making a seminar more valuable to someone, I want to prioritize information retention instead of just showing what I know. So I could just go on and show many, many moves. Okay, I remember once I went to a seminar, again, I'm not going to name anyone, and this guy's he's like highly regarded in the jiu-jitsu community. Like he's like one of the main guys. And man, this guy just stopped us every 5 minutes and showed a new technique. And we're near the end of the seminar. He did roll with me, which was cool. So I appreciated that. But at the end of seminar, he had shown, like, I'm not joking, like 15 things. And there's not enough time to try any of these things. And I was just like, man, this guy's just like trying to show as many things as he possibly could, but he's not prioritizing the retention of the information. You know, keeping it simple and doing less things often can be better, because the things will actually stick. There's less things to try to remember. You know, you show like 12 different techniques in a seminar and give no time to actually try the moves and no structure as to how you're going to like get the student to remember the moves. I mean, it just turns into a thing where the instructor is trying to show what they know. They're not trying to actually make that new information stick. So I like to limit the amount of techniques used. I have done seminars where I came away from the seminar after, I'm like, I showed too many techniques. That was too much. I could see people were like kind of losing their interest. I could see that people were not necessarily retaining the information that I showed at the first part of the seminar. So sometimes limiting the amount that you show is a better thing than showing way too much. Again, just read the room. Are people still drilling? Are they still moving, or are they kind of like in relaxation mode now? Is it time to move on? Is the flow of the seminar working, or are people becoming disconnected with it? I also think another good thing that you could do to give value to a seminar would be like have a follow-up survey. So you could ask people things in a follow-up survey on Google Documents. It's very easy to do. You could also thank people in an email. You could, one thing that P.O. Leclerc did that I think is really great, he has like an online platform. He filmed his own seminar, and then he put that footage on his platform, and he gave everyone who was in attendance access to that content. So you can now go there and watch it again. Like that is we have the technology to have this information to be watched again. Why not take advantage of that? And I think that really gives value to the seminar. And also you can post clips from your seminar on social media to promote your own brand and to promote future seminars. So I think it's important to like film your seminar personally and have a platform where you can give people access to that information. So if they forget certain topics or certain details, they can always go back and watch it again. I think it's a great way to give value to a seminar. Let's talk about some like common mistakes for seminars. Okay. I think overlooking the importance of presentation is a huge common mistake, right? Body language, delivery, the engagement, etc. Very, very overlooked by some people, and being able to be engaging will add so much value to your seminar and make people honestly better learners. I think also common mistakes, not rehearsing the seminar, if that's a necessary thing. If you're not confident with your delivery or you need rehearsing, to just ignore that, I think your seminar is less likely to just run smoothly. So rehearse if necessary in front of a mirror or a camera. Teaching more information than can be absorbed. We already talked about that. Showing too many techniques. That's a huge mistake in my opinion. Choosing techniques that do not work together or are not in some way related. that's a problem. Being rude, being not approachable, or being off-putting when someone can't do the technique, showing frustration, getting frustration when people are struggling with a task. That's not a good look. People look at that and they're like, "Hey, did you see so and so is getting pissed off when I couldn't do the move?" Yeah, well, he's kind of a dick, right? And it's like, man, that's just not a good taste to leave in someone's mouth after you're trying to teach them something. They're probably not going to want you back if the host is having people coming up to him and saying, "Hey, did you know Matt was like a dick during the seminar to me? Like I couldn't get the move." That is not something you want to leave with people. That can easily follow you around for future seminars, and before you know it, you get this reputation that you're a dick at seminars and you're not very approachable. Don't want to do that. I mentioned earlier, not giving enough time to try the techniques. Okay, when you show a move, like really, you should be giving like 20 minutes to a half an hour on that move or that idea. Or maybe you have a block of the seminars dedicated to a game, right? Gamified training, target sparring. It depends how you want to structure it, but just make sure that you are giving ample time for the student to try the technique, to really feel it out. Don't just move on. Don't cut segments of the technique short because you want to show everything that you were planning to show. Sometimes I want to show even more, and I'm like, I can look around the room and see that this is not going to stick. I can see that this is too much information. I'm just going to, the last thing that I wanted to show, we're not even going to do it because there's just not enough time to cram it all in. I don't want to show everything that I know if it comes at the expense of the student not being able to retain the information. All right. Like I said, if you move on when people are struggling with a particular task, that's not good. Sometimes the majority of the room can move on, but there are people who are struggling, and to them I just say, just keep working on what you're working on. I'll come by, I'll try and help you. Everyone else, we're ready to move on to the next thing. And of course, after the seminar, I think that's really important is reflect on how the seminar went. Be honest with yourself. Did things land? Did things land the way that I wanted them to land? What could I have done better? What was done well? Just like if you're going to do like a competition, you always want to think about what you did well, what you could always do better. And then when you do that, when you're self-critical like that, you're always going to find opportunities to grow. So I always try to do that after a seminar. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that went well. That could have been better. Maybe I showed too many techniques. Maybe I didn't do enough live training. Maybe I could have been kinder. I don't know. Always sort of assess yourself and think about how you're going to improve for the future. Okay, what should you charge? I get asked this probably more than anything from people who are new to doing seminars. And truthfully, I don't even know what I should be charging. I think this is based upon your credentials, your reputation, and supply and demand for particular information you might have. So if you have some cool guard or some cool system and you're in a town where not a lot of people play this material, you could potentially charge more. Not that would ever be, for me, it wouldn't be a measure of what should I charge for a seminar. I think if you have credentials and a reputation, you are essentially more valuable. Okay. Also consider things like travel and lodging. I think if someone's going to bring you in to do a seminar, they should be paying for your travel. They should be paying for your gas or your, if necessary, hotel. Those things should come with the cost. Okay. You also have to ask yourself, like, how are we going to structure this to be sorted out between the presenter and the host? Are we going to be doing like a lump sum? Like, hey, I want at least this much money. Or if a certain number of people come in, I want this percentage, or maybe you want all of the money. It depends how you're looking at it. Is the host willing to not take any money in order to give you the money that you deserve, or do they still want a cut? Those are all things for you to sort out with the host. And you can structure the payment of the seminar many, many different ways. The best way to do that is just to work it out with the host ahead of time, have an honest conversation with them and say, hey, this is basically the expectation. And also, you should always advertise your seminars on social media platforms, ideally multiple platforms if you can, and sort of get people talking about it, get people reposting your stories, etc. That is such a big part of advertising nowadays, is social media and how we're putting ourselves out there. personally, for me, for a seminar, I mean, I will charge for a 3-hour seminar, 2-hour instructor and 1 hour sparring. I will charge anywhere from $500 to $1,000. I'm not, honestly, that's not even that expensive. Like $500 is not that expensive for 3 hours if you really think about it. But $1,000 is more like, okay, now it's like there either has to be a good turnout or the host has to like not take any money. And I'm just saying that because I've never really won anything big. I'm kind of a local legend in Vancouver and I have a podcast and all that, but like I've never won any major world, any titles or anything like that. Just winning mostly on the local level. But that being said, I could still fill a seminar sometimes. I am finding that seminars are harder and harder to sell nowadays, just like I said, with the information that's available. So you should have a baseline of value that you think you are entitled to and pitch that. Say, hey, I want to get $1,000 for 3 hours, or I think I'm worth $2,000 for 3 hours. See what they say. If they can't afford it, they'll likely let you know. And then from there, it's kind of a bit of a bargain. So don't be uncomfortable to discuss money. I just recommend you do it ahead of time so that things aren't awkward. You don't want to have anything left to guessing. And then after the seminar, now you're getting into disagreements with someone. That is just not a good thing. So just work it out ahead of time, just like any job, anytime you'd be hired for anything. Last thing I'll talk about, should you let people film? I always let people film my seminars, but there are people who don't want to let people film. Maybe it's because they have a platform that they want to have the footage exclusive to. Okay, there's understandable reasons why people wouldn't want people to film. Sometimes people are showing things that are so novel in the moment that they just want the people to enjoy that in person, but they don't want that information to be on YouTube. They don't want that information to be on camera where it can be shared and uploaded in other places. Personally, I think that that's kind of, it's not for me, that approach, but like, I know Gordon Ryan has gone to seminars and been like, no, I don't want you to film this. Please don't film this. They don't want that information. They want to share good information that's novel and that's really good, but they don't want it to float around the internet. They're not ready to have it exposed yet because they want to use it in competition. And that honestly, it does make sense. But like I said, I've never done that. I always say, hey guys, you want to film this? Go ahead. Or if someone, like I said, has exclusive online content and they only want that content on their platform and they want to control the distribution of that content, I mean, I understand that. That's fair. Just make sure you're respecting the presenter's, the presenter's wishes. If they don't want to film, they don't consent to the seminar being filmed, respect that. I remember Gordon was talking about, years ago, he went to a seminar and he asked the guys not to film. And then the guy was like trying to sneakily film it anyways. And I remember Gordon was grilling him on social media saying like, yeah, this fucking guy didn't even listen to, I see him sneaking and trying to film it. And I think there was like there's a falling out between him and the guy kind of mid seminar. And it's like, man, it's not good for anyone. As the presenter, you don't come away thinking, oh, that was fun, or I did a good job. You come away from it thinking, man, that was an annoying fucking beef that I had with the host. I'll never go back there again. Maybe he has a bad impression of me now, and it's not good for anyone. You should come away from teaching seminars as like everything's positive. The student got something out of it. The presenter got something out of it. They got paid and they got to network, and the host got something out of it. They got exposure and they got to provide a good service to their student and maybe make a little bit of money. Like, it should be a net positive for everyone. If people are coming away from the seminar and have a negative experience in any way, shape, or form, I would say that the seminar is somewhat ineffective in that way. And again, just sort of reiterate, sorting out details like filming before the seminar. Do not leave this to guess. Do not do it afterward. That is a big question that I always discuss with people when I'm getting hired for seminars, or if I was going to bring someone in, I would say, hey, are you going to spar? How long is this? How much money do you want? Can we film it? These are like very, very base level questions when it comes to seminars. All right. And that's all we're going to talk about today. So things that I have coming up, if you're listening to this episode, chances are some of these things have already happened. So right now I'm filming this on September 29th. So I'm a little bit ahead. Next week actually is the Josh McKinney episode to be released. But next weekend, as it is right now for me, I'm fighting Lucas Wilhan in a sub-only match in Penticton, BC, 10 minutes sub-only. Again, I don't need to explain my rivalry that I've had with Lucas. He's beat me 3 times. I've beat him twice, and I'm hoping to even the score, but damn, that guy's so skilled. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then the following weekend, I have 80cc East Coast Trials in Atlantic City, 77 kilogram division. There's some crazy good guys in there, like Oliver Taza, Nicky Ryan. I'm pretty sure one of the Tackett brothers is in there. It's going to be insane. There's going to be some really, really good fucking guys in that division. Pio Leclerc, I think Kieran Kachuk is in there. Lucas Wilhan is in there. Just, it'll be definitely high level, and the winner gets to go to the World Championships. And I'm just there to have fun. Obviously, I'm trying to win, but at the same time, it's like because of the knee issue that I had, my camp has been heavily disrupted. Because of that, I haven't been able to spar hard. I'm only now getting back to sparring. After a couple weeks off of like hard training because I sprained my MCL a couple weeks ago. And I'm at the point in my career where I've gone to so many competitions. I've done competitions where I've had no camp at all because I was sick or because of some unforeseen circumstances. And I'm at the level now where it's just like, you know what? It's honestly, it doesn't even bother me. It's normal for someone who competes so often to not have perfect camps. And even a tournament as big as East Coast Trials, it's like, you know what? It is just another fucking tournament. If I lose the tournament, it's still a great experience. And, you know, because I can prepare however I can, but not getting a perfect camp in, as you progress and you just keep competing over and over again, you're like, yeah, this is normal. This is normal going to competitions with injuries or not having ideal preparation circumstances. And I think the worst thing to do is to stress out about it and have those thoughts in your head like, oh, I'm not ready. It's like, yeah, that's not really a good mindset. I think a good mindset is, hey, I've done this before. I've done this before when I haven't had an ideal preparation. As long as my knee is like an 85, 90%, I think I'll be good to go. I'm confident with my level of skill, and I'm just going to go out there and do my best and have the most fun. Plus, it's in Atlantic City in I believe it's in New Jersey, and I've never been there, and I know it's kind of I've been told it's kind of a shithole, and it's not necessarily easy to get to. I'm flying to Philadelphia, and then I got to take a bus for 2 hours. But that being said, I'm looking forward to the experience, and then after East Coast Trials, I'm hoping to probably take some time off of competing for a couple of months and regroup and focus on a couple of things. And there's other things going on in my life right now that I kind of want to make some time for. So I'm looking forward to some rest and recovery from competition as we head into the Christmas holidays. But that is the episode, guys. I hope you'll wish me luck in my upcoming competitions. And I hope you like the conversations that we had in the previous weeks with Greg Souders and Josh McKinney. Anyways, if you guys want to contact or support the show, please check out the links in the bottom. You can message me in my social media or in my email, which I've left at the bottom. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is always subscribe to my online academy. Guys, it's only $10 a month. That's 2 Starbucks coffees a month, okay? Even if you don't watch the content, you will be supporting the show. I don't have a Patreon. If you like the content that I give you, please fork out $10 a month. It helps me keep the lights on. It's really, really valuable to me. And again, I appreciate all the support I get. Even if you just leave a comment in the comment section, I really appreciate that. You know, even if you're there to troll me, like, oh my God, I was reading the Greg Souders comments yesterday on YouTube. The one great thing about Greg Souders is whenever he's on your show, he always brings a ton of views, right? And for that, I appreciate it. And then I look in the comments and they're all like, oh, Matt clearly just doesn't understand the ecological approach. Matt just clearly doesn't want to do the reading. I recommend Rob Gray's book. I'm like, dude, I read that book like twice back to back immediately. I understand the ecological approach. It's just, I don't believe fully that it's that only eco is the best way. And that's just my opinion through my experience. But I understand there's scientific studies that show skill acquisition is done best through live resistance. I'm not disputing that at all, but it's just funny, like some of the comments that I read and, people kind of misinterpreting what I say, especially even some of these social media clips that I post. Like I did one a couple weeks ago that was like, oh, we've all competed when we're not our best. We've all competed if we're sick or if we had the flu or whatever. And then people in the comments are like, how dare you compete with the flu? That is so selfish, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, it's possible that I had the flu a couple weeks ago. I'm no longer contagious, but I still have lingering symptoms. Like, I think so many people, and myself included, will hear something online and then they will interpret the worst, or their interpretation of what they heard is completely different from what the person was trying to say. And then they leave a comment based on that. And it's just like, man, anyways, I love all the fucking comments, guys. Like I said, more engagement is better for me. And I like to hear conflicting opinions. So please keep leaving those comments, keep discussing it, and create a dialogue in the comment section, because that's really what I love to see, is people talking back and forth. I don't like to see people fighting with each other in the comment sections, even though it can be kind of, it can be juicy. That's not my intention. My intention is just to spark conversations, to share ideas. That is really, I think, where we're going to get the most productive comments. Okay. And lastly, if you have a child, or if you know someone who has a child and you want to get them into jiu-jitsu, please check out my kids' book, Zara Can Do Jiu-Jitsu. There's a lot of information in that book about jiu-jitsu, but yet it's for kids. There's a whole section in the back, a glossary, where I discuss jiu-jitsu terms that most common people would not think of or know. And hopefully you find that book as educational as it is wholesome. And if that book just introduces one kid to the sport of jiu-jitsu, or one young family to the sport of jiu-jitsu, I believe it's done its job. And if you like the book, please recommend it to people. But that is the show for today, guys. So anyways, I hope you guys have some successful seminars out there. Remember, not all seminars are created equal, but if you do it in a rehearsed and structured way, man, seminars can be actually very, very beneficial. All right. And I hope that you go to a good seminar, and I hope that you can present a good seminar if you are asked to do so. Anyways, that's my time. Guys, take care. Remember, the Essential Jiu-Jitsu podcast is everything you need to know about jiu-jitsu. Wish me luck in Atlantic City and in my match against Lucas. Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.